Hey guys, it's Nicole, and today we have arrived at layout number 10 with my Easter version of Creating with Collections. I'm a little sad only because I don't have any more layouts that are like done and queued up for video process. But tomorrow's Friday, weekend's coming. I'm hoping to be able to kind of sit down and knock another 2 or 3 out and then do what I've been doing where I kind of edit them during the week at night, pretty much. So I am not working with the Easter themed products on this layout. There was a lot of what I would call like gardening type icons. So like seed pockets, florals, bugs, that kind of thing. And in the chipboard pack was a phrase that said bloom and grow. So I went with some gardening photos, and this kind of goes back to layout number 7, where I talked about using things that were kind of already there. The photos for this layout were actually intended for one of the 6x6 sketches from that big class that I did recently, and I gave up on trying to find the October afternoon 8x8 pad that I really wanted to use with it. Update, I found the pad after I did the layout, so the photos were ready to go. So I decided to go ahead and just grab those. They were going to work out with the gardening themed items. Boom, move on. The papers, I'm kind of like down to not having a lot of big pieces. I'm still not loving that cloud paper. So I'm going back to one of the techniques that I've been doing this round, and it's just, for whatever reason on my mind, is ink blending. It's kind of a fun way to basically make your own pattern paper right onto the background of the layout. And I didn't need to have a 12x12 stencil to do this. I just took some Post-it tape and kind of made my own sun rays. And what I did was the parts that were masked off between the pieces of Post-it tape, I took Squeezed Lemonade, which is a lighter color Distress Oxide, and kind of did a heavy hand of that. Then I added some Fossilized Amber, which is kind of like a brownish yellow, towards the center of where the sun would be bursting from, I guess. Kind of did a heavy hand on that, and then when I took the strips off, except the border strip, I just took like a brush and did like a light layer of the Squeezed Lemonade to kind of color in between the rays. And then I just took some water and splattered that on there and let it air dry, and it's basically just going to kind of help give it a distressed look. And for me, that's kind of what makes things look more like a printed pattern paper versus just kind of coloring on your paper. And I went ahead and spanned it across the entire layout. And basically what I did, I forgot to hit record basically, but because the photos were intended for a 6x6 sketch, they were already edited and printed in those sizes, but I didn't want to go with that layout. So I just took like 10 minutes and kind of arranged them on my desk, figured out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to put that title piece, and basically where my sunburst rays kind of come from is where my title piece is going to land. So that was kind of where I started forming these areas with my Post-it tape basically. And it might seem weird, but I kind of like this. This is kind of why I invest in things like Distress Oxides and different things that you see people sharing in like the card making side of paper crafts. I like things like that to get double duty, and I've talked about that for years. You guys have seen me include dies and stamps and whatnot. I'm hoping that come next year, I will be able to kind of chisel out the time for a larger project involving this kind of idea. I'm not going to say it because I feel like if I say it, then I have to do it, and I don't know if I'm going to have the time. So this is kind of the time of year where I start like brainstorming and thinking about all these things that I want to do and fresh ideas, because I'm just done with the ones that I'm working with. But if you know me and you've been here for a while, the odds of me tripping on that mountain of plans is a high likelihood. So at this point, I'm still just kind of thinking realistically, what do I have time to navigate through? What are commitments that I've kind of already said yes to? That kind of thing. So for me, this Easter collection is kind of a good wrap up for the end of the year because I do want to get it finished. I want to kind of get it off my desk. I personally like this series. I know a lot of you have commented and told me that you enjoy this series. So if you do enjoy this series and you want me to continue doing it next year, just let me know. I probably will, just because I like it and I kind of miss some of the channels that used to do sort of like a kill a kit type thing with like whatever monthly kit they subscribe to. They would, they'd share the kit, they'd work through the kit over a span of however long. Some of them did it within the month of the kit being active. Some of them just kind of, when they were done, they were done. But it was so satisfying to kind of watch them revisit those supplies, find creative uses to use them again, and kind of just keep like taking bites of that elephant. And then if they did like a end of kit video where it was like, look, this is what I have left, these are all the layouts that I made with it, those were like my favorite videos. And I feel like a year, maybe 2 years ago, they kind of started falling off. Now those types of kits don't work for my brain. They don't work for the way that I like to process through a challenge like that. So my version of that is this creating with collections thing that I've been sharing with you guys, where I prefer a big challenge like that to be a matchy type thing where it's a collection pack and embellishments that go with it. And then I can kind of bring in stamps and dies, inks, techniques, that kind of thing to sort of help beef up my creativity when I'm getting tired of the product. Yeah, I don't even think I've ever bought one of those kits where it had like different branded papers and different branded embellishments and stuff. I have thought about playing around with the idea of making one of my own just from my stash, kind of as like an experiment. Plus I've got like our family photos. I thought that there was a paper collection that I kind of based our outfits off of. Turns out I completely imagined that. So I might be like making my own Frankenstein kit anyways to work with those photos. So I don't know. Again, this is part of the list of things that like I kind of want to try to challenge myself with next year. I don't really feel like it's smart in 2020 to be like, hey, make some challenges for yourself, but whatever. So while I went off on a wild tangent, I've got my photos down. I'm doing just some strips of paper on the bottom, and I'm basically going to fill in the areas that are left with paper. However, I kind of ran into an issue where I didn't have enough of that gray wood grain pattern to fill in over the 3x4 photo that's on the far left. So I took one of the die cuts that had like a sun and clouds, which is carrying over from what I've got going on the right, but it wasn't wide enough either. So I kind of just started sticking a whole bunch of stuff in there to fill that space. And is it my favorite? No. Did it fill a hole? Yeah. Did it use up supplies? Yeah. Am I moving on? 100%, because I don't care enough about that little spot for it to bother me. Would I have liked for it to have been like a full sheet of that wood grain paper? Yes. But I got that sun die cut used up that I, until then, had no idea what I was going to do with it. It had a phrase of "You are my sunshine" on the bottom of it. And the measurement just worked out to be where that got cut off. And instead of putting it back on the die cut sheet, which it's up there on the top right of my mat right now, I'm just going to end up putting that in another cluster on this layout to just be able to like get it done and move on. And then pretty much anything on the sticker sheet and the die cut and the chipboard pack that I kind of had left over, I was mostly just looking for anything that wouldn't clash with a garden theme, wouldn't clash with an outdoor theme. I used up the 3 cloud die cuts. I used up the sun die cut. I can't remember. I think the only chipboard I ended up using was that phrase. I feel like the chipboard, they always get you with like the manufacturer picture on the website and you're like, oh, it's so cute. But then I get it and I'm like, these pieces are so weird. And you only get like, especially in a collection like this where it's like Easter and spring and a bunch of stuff kind of together. If you only got like 12 or 15 pieces of chipboard, the odds of them kind of working cohesively together don't add up for me. But that's for me. Again, my personal style, which as we all know is kind of all over the place. My journaling, I did go ahead and print out on that same pink grid paper that I printed out from Nicole Jones Designs. That has been like awesome. I just kind of keep it on my desk with the other paper that I would normally use scraps of to print my journaling. But what's nice is it reads as a pattern paper still, and that's kind of what I prefer to print my journaling on, especially if I'm not doing strips. And then I just kind of made like a little mini scene around the title. I added a little like label sticker and a snail up here on the edge of my journaling. And then just like that little cluster down on the bottom right. I did make sure to stamp the date on there, which I think at this point I had to go through all my date stamps because a smart person would label them, and I'm not a smart person at this point, but some of them stop at 2016, some of them go from 2018 and up. Like, it's never the right one that I grab. And I tend to either go with like a black or brown or gray, or if I'm feeling crazy, I'll find a color that matches my layout. Apparently I felt crazy today. So hopefully in the detail photos, you can kind of see more of the ink blending. I know it's kind of hard to see in a video depending on my lighting situation as well, but if you've never done it, I would encourage you to try it. I've done it with cloud stencils, a couple layouts in this series. This one I didn't need to use a stencil. I made my own, so I would recommend trying it. It's super fun and ends up looking amazing. So with that, I'm going to say bye and I will catch you guys later.